Good evening, everybody. Well, here we are again. And this week's artist is an absolute cracker. It's something that I've not interviewed before at all because I've never had anybody that does this kind of work before, which is amazing. And I think this is, I don't know if it's number 27 or number 28, this interview. So I've interviewed quite a lot of people, but we'll get into that after I've done a bit of admin, which is just telling you what's going on and what's coming up. So, of course, just to remind you, for those people and anybody watching this for the first time, this is actually what it's all about. It's the Flux Review magazine. Edition 12 is currently being worked upon, but it's been going since 2014. So we're now into the 11th year. And because of the Flux magazine, we do actually have the Flux exhibition, which this year is Marylebone in the Bomb Factory, it's called, in Marylebone. The 17th to 20th of July. The private view is on the 17th. There are tickets now been released for that on Eventbrite. If you go on to either the Flux Review or Flux Exhibition on Instagram, there is a link in there posted. You can see that, but it is on Instagram. You'll find that. But give you an idea, there's something like 70, 80 artists that all exhibit in 2-3 great big areas, actually. And there's live performers, there's also drag artists walking about, and of course, as you can see there on the right hand side, Lisa right in the middle of all the action as usual. There's a little bit of all sorts going on, actually. There's a live DJ and there'll be, as I said, some live performance too. So it'd be great to see you. I'll be there, and so will quite a lot of the artists that I've actually interviewed. And this just to let you know, this is the guy next week, Sam Peacock. These are works on metal that he does, which is with clay, oil and wax. But he also, like tonight's guest, he does do some installations and sculptures outside as well. But predominantly his work is those top two pictures on the left-hand side. You can see that. So that's... well, that's what's coming up. There is also, I mention it every week because Michelle Watson's got her private view coming up soon as well, but I will talk about that more next week because it's in 2 weeks' time today, and I will be there. So there won't be a live broadcast as such, but my plan is to do a live broadcast from her private view. So probably not going to be an hour, but be there for a little while anyway. So tonight's guest. Well, I've put, as usual, a video together, and it's probably best if I just play that and let you watch that, and just to see what it is that Rona. I think wow is the answer. Wow is the only thing you can say, other than Rona. Hello.
Hi, Gary. So great to be here.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Lovely video.
Well, yes, I do that every week, and this is really just to, again, let people know who you are. Rona Smith, ronasmith.co.uk. So what we're going to be talking about, I did say earlier that I wouldn't ask you what you had for your lunch, but this is not that sort of chat. This is to find out exactly what you do and how you come to do it. So a good place to start, I feel, is how did you come into art? What was it that led you down this path that you're on?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with my childhood, really. My mum was an amateur painter, and she always kind of encouraged my sister and I in our creative endeavors. Um, but also, I guess you could say I had quite an unusual childhood, um, partly because my sister had a birth injury, and she had learning disabilities and mood disorders, and she had a very hard time, but because of that, she kind of had quite kind of an influence over the rest of us. And in addition to that, we didn't have a television. And so I spent a lot of time um, hiding away and making things and painting
Brilliant.
and drawing. And I think that's really kind of been such an influence on me. Um, we didn't travel much. We kind of didn't do many things because everything was so challenging with a difficult family. And so, yeah, I did kind of live in my imagination, um, really very much, kind of throughout my childhood and until I was kind of old enough to get a job and start going out and kind of seeing things for myself. Yeah.
But
And I,
you ended up at Leeds University doing a fine art degree. So
yeah, exactly.
what led you to that? As opposed to working anywhere else or doing something completely different. What was it? Was that all because of what you've just been talking about? The fact that you had this creative imagination. And to be honest, I think a lot more people should not watch TV and do some creative stuff. Sure, but is that what led you to that route?
um, Not well, not completely. I really wanted to, but for a few years I wanted to be an architect, um, and that was something that I was really considering, but I wasn't so hot on the maths, and
Shh,
I
don't
kept
tell anyone.
being told, well, I kept being told that perhaps that wasn't such a creative career. And I think that was, I mean, it can be extremely creative,
Mm,
being an
mm.
architect. But I think I wanted to do something that was kind of a bit more personal, really. And maybe my interest in architecture kind of led to me working on such a large scale, I think.
Okay, so that's exactly what I was actually about to say. Is that what led you to some of these huge installation ideas, and also when you're there at Leeds doing your degree, um, is this the kind of stuff you were doing for that, or is that been a progression from your degree in the first place?
Yeah, so it's it's a kind of unlikely progression, I think. So
Mm,
while I was at Leeds, I was working with a lot of ephemeral materials. I was making installations on the floor out of things like chili powder and molasses and marble dust. um, Everything could just be kind of swept away. And I was really interested in that kind of time based aspect of
interesting.
sculpture and installation.
Yeah.
But I was still working on a large scale, like covering um, some friends and I did a project in the, well, they called it the physics barn. Um, and yeah, sort of covered a very large space with this kind of installation made of chili powder, which then sun bleached in a particular pattern because of the direction of the light. So yeah, it was a large scale, but it was completely transitory. And yeah, I always think it's kind of ironic that this kind of the ephemeral nature of my previous work, and actually I still make quite a few pieces in that kind of style, but that led to something so permanent as bronze. Yeah.
So when you're, I'm just looking at on the wall behind you, you've got some work on the wall, which I can see. I mean, because I've looked at your work, I recognise a good few pieces on there. But you've also got some directly behind you that, as you pointed out to me earlier, not finished, but that's on a project that you're working on at the moment. So
Yeah.
And is this how do you start like this every time?
So yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I always think when it comes to having an original idea, it's really helpful to have more than one kind of strand of research. And when I say research, I mean that in the broadest sense. I mean that could just be kind of playing around with some materials, or seeing what something does. But it can also mean, in a more traditional way, kind of, researching the history of a place, for example. But yeah, I often have kind of different threads which come together, and I feel like that's really important to arrive at something new. And so this piece, this is not a finished piece, as we discussed. It's some work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this piece here, I'm playing a game of patience.
Oh, I can see that.
Documenting. Yeah, you can see that now,
I
right?
can see that now. Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of documenting the position of the cards, and yeah, this one is
Yeah.
not as developed as the lower one.
So do you think what you're effectively saying is that you're almost using a physical, something you can touch, mood board in effect, with when you're playing about with different substances, see what they do. It gives you that. It starts building something up in your mind to then move on to what you're actually going to finally create.
Yeah, or I might just be. I've always got things kind of ticking along in the studio, and perhaps they haven't been realised in a final piece, but they kind of feed into the more site-specific work which I do in the public realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can have a look at a bit of that, because I've got some of your work. I've put some into a slideshow, some that are already uploaded onto this site, so we can talk about them. You've got in particular, so let's just have a look at these gates now. We spoke beforehand about these, and this was how you came up with. Now I've got to get the right picture. Was it this one?
No, it was
No.
the watchmaker chap on. That's the guy.
Yeah. Okay. So this gave you the inspiration for what effectively is this.
Yeah. So there's a little bit more kind of backstory to this piece.
Okay.
I love antique jewelry and antique watches, and I haven't done this for a few years, sadly. But I used to buy and sell Victorian gold jewelry. I used to go around auctions and put it on eBay and sell it to Americans and Australians. And I've just always been interested in old clocks and also the kind of, the kind of engravings and the beautiful craftsmanship, that goes into those.
Yeah.
And so when I was putting together my proposal for this piece, I was looking into the history of Regent Street, where this work is, and what was happening there at the turn of the century when it was kind of rebuilt by Nash. And I found that it was a real hub for clockmakers and watchmakers, and I was just so drawn to that kind of historical theme, because often with these public art commissions, the brief asks the artist to reflect and respond to the local environment in whatever way I might choose. That just really struck me, and let's have a look at that image of Mr. Veal in his shop. And I found this in the Westminster University Library, and I just thought, wow, this is absolutely charming and such an exciting starting point. And so I went to my collection, or the ones that I hadn't sold, of pocket watches, prizing them open, examining the engravings, and that's how I came up with this idea to have to really expand and go from the minute to something that's really quite large.
Yeah, it is. And so how long does it take to sort of make something like that? Forget all the bit that goes before, actually physically making something like that. And also, it's got to be mapped out, because the gates have got to open, they've got to work properly.
There are a lot of technical aspects to this, and also something that happens when you're designing something physical, something practical and useful, that isn't just a sculpture. It's just so interactive, is you get a lot of additional stuff. And you have to kind of almost protect the artwork, and everybody's kind of working together to try and deal with health and safety issues, making sure nobody's going to get stuck behind the gates because they're automated, things like that, and all the signposting, whilst also kind of protecting this piece, as a work of art. And so, in answer to your question, how long does it take? I mean, the actual fabrication, so that's bronze, the gates are made of bronze, and the cladding inside the art.
I just saw that is
that's Portland stone.
That's back to here. What I saw that there, which is it's not just the gates, is it? It's also coming down this passageway with the that's it. I just really wanted to create this complete kind of sort of like stepping through time and walking through time. And so when the gates open, they connect up with this series of cogs, which is bronze inlaid into the Portland stone. Wow.
So there were two different, there were many different contractors actually, but for the artwork, my usual metal worker guys and a kind of stone supplier. The stone was etched, and then the bronze kind of fit into the recess.
Wow. Looking at the picture, I did not know that's what it was. That's just amazing.
And then you've got all these tolerances as well, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because in because you've got the tolerance for the teeth meeting, and then
Yeah.
you've got the tolerance for the recess in the stone. There's really a great deal going on.
It's absolutely superb.
Shifting the gates around constantly in these meetings.
So you got patterns do feature heavily in everything I've seen that you've done. To be honest, you've definitely got a big pattern thing going on. Let me just see what my next slide is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't answer your question, did I? How long it took? It was, I mean, I'm going to say 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
With all
I kind of thought it would be. So
yeah.
Now, inspiration for this, which is the big piece that I've been sort of sending out on Instagram, not Instagram, sorry, on Facebook and stuff, and it actually for this, but inspiration came from here.
Yeah. So this is a photograph that I found again in Westminster University Library, actually. These chaps on the railway switches of Paddington Station. So this piece is on the side of the JCDecaux HQ building, which is on Regent Street, just along from Paddington Station.
Just got to see which is not that one. No, I've got it in the slideshow. So we will get to that. This is the piece that we're talking about. Yeah. So it's a sizable. What kind of weight are we talking about?
So it's actually hollow.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah, I want to say 2.5 tons.
Right. So do you, when all this goes in and this gets installed, is there an element of keeping your fingers crossed it's going to stay there?
Well, I think if anyone was worried, then the structural engineer would have a few questions. I mean, we trust him.
Yeah, it's it is pretty outstanding. It's quite a stunning piece for sure.
Yeah, so the engineering on this piece was so complex because the key to the concept was this kind of peeling off away from the wall, and that is a theme in my work. This kind of leaning and peeling away, and I just wanted this kind of sense of taking off and of kind of reaching out into the sky, and of connecting and travel and this. So there were lots and lots of conversations about how we would kind of manage that, because it's rather heavy.
Well, just to give people a sense of size, that is you in the picture.
Yeah, that's me standing on the roof there.
That's why you're not 3'2" tall either. It's interesting, isn't it, that when you've suddenly got a bit of scale there, and you can see, oh my word. I mean, even if you look at the other picture, you're talking about over 4 stories, pretty much 4 stories worth of. What's that? 15 meters.
Yeah, it's 15 meters. Yeah.
Yeah, 15 meters, 5 meters wide. That is some serious bit of sculpture for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would feel about this, but I know how I would feel, that if every time I drove past that, I'd have a little smile and give a little nod to it. I think I'd be very proud that I would have something there for people to see, which is which comes back a little bit to you wanting to be an architect. Because if you'd have designed the building, you'd have the same feeling. So, you've got all of that creativity, you've got that ability to come up with stuff like this without going through all the 7 years, 8 years pain of being an architect, and actually probably not being able to come up with something like this at the end of it. So it's pretty absolutely amazing. I want to move on to another piece, because so this was the inspiration. This was the inspiration for, and I'm guessing this is the sort of concept for it, design for it, for what is quite a staggering piece. And we've got a picture of you actually working on it. Now, I know you have fabricators do this for you, but you do get your hands dirty as well by the look of it. So it's not completely.
Oh, I'm there all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I think. I mean,
And
I don't know what you're doing here, but clearly, clearly you are getting stuck into it.
yeah,
That's for sure.
and spray painting my mural there. Do you know what? Actually, I brought the model for that bench.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Right, let's bring this back up,
Which
and we'll go full screen on that. Oh, how cool!
Because I make a lot of models.
Do you?
And this is really a really kind of key part to my work, helping the client to visualize the piece and to kind of understand what they're getting and to look at it from different angles. And I just find models very evocative, really.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the way that people used to work, and now they tend to work mostly within a 3D, 3D computer program rather than building a model. And I think you need something tangible to actually say, look at this. You don't, moving it around the screen is not the same at all.
Yeah, well, I agree. And when I'm researching or kind of experimenting to develop my ideas, it's such a physical process, and it really does kind of govern the direction that the work takes. I'm kind of playing with paper and plastic and different materials, and so I feel it's really relevant, to show something physical, because it's kind of such an important part of my practice, and also worth pointing out here, because it's quite a nice parallel between this piece and the previous one, JCDecaux piece, the railway tracks. Both of these works are kind of inspired by something quite delicate, paper. So my piece, the JCDecaux piece, that emerged from sketching, just a simple line drawing, sketching those railway tracks, and then this sense of just a sheet from a sketchbook, say, just kind of peeling off the wall. And then this piece with the scroll that I'm looking at, that's so bit of background. This piece is for Cambridge University.
Okay, I wondered where it was.
Residents. And this is a scroll that I found in the St. John's College archive, which is an amazing place, full of absolutely ancient artifacts. And the wonderful librarian there, when I said, I'm looking for anything related to this particular site, which was just farmland for centuries. And so it didn't have the usual kind of interesting trade history, which I might be drawn to, But she kind of said, well, we've got these deeds. And I was like, great, show me the deeds. And They're only from the 16th century.
Oh my word!
And yeah, this incredible, they call it a terrier, which basically means a kind of list of the boundaries of the land in question. So all the features and the hedgerows and all these other things, and who owned what and when. And I was just so struck by not so much the text, but just the kind of sculptural quality of that scroll and how brittle it was. And I just took that curving, kind of rolled up parchment, and I used that for this sculptural seating.
Yeah, look, I mean, it looks amazing. Where is that? So is this in one of the unis at Cambridge?
Yeah, St John's College. Yeah,
St John's College. Cool. Oh well, I'm not very far from Cambridge, so next time I'm there, and I go there a
you'll
lot.
have to come to the launch.
Well, oh really? When is that then?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. We do go to Cambridge a lot, actually.
Yes, it should be around April.
Yeah, we go there a lot, and it's that will be interesting to see it, because it does look quite sizable.
Yeah, it's really quite a beast, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and because I've been so engrossed in listening to you and what you're actually creating. Lisa, who's obviously runs the Flux Review, runs the Flux exhibition, she did actually put on here, incredible. I love this piece, but I've got to be honest, I don't know which one she was talking about. So because I missed that pop up on the screen. So anyway, it will be one of the ones we've already spoken about, and Lisa is absolutely brilliant at curating exhibitions. She really understands art well. So that's really thanks for the comment.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Yeah, so it's this is again, it looks heavy, but I'm guessing that quite a lot of that's hollow as well.
No, that's all solid, actually.
Yeah. You know what? I'm getting so much right tonight. But
it's all solid, but it's quite. Yeah, it's 10 mil. The
and what material is it?
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel. Oh, nice.
Yeah, stainless steel, and it's got a paint finish on it now.
Yeah.
So it's a bit kind of warmer.
So what happens then? You could presumably you get commissioned to do this. Who do people go? Oh, we fancy this. Who are we going to get to do? Oh, I know exactly the person. What happened? What's the process? Because it's not like somebody, I wouldn't even know where to look if I wanted something like this.
You know what? Well, those are the best jobs, when somebody's going, I know who we need.
Yeah.
This artist. And sometimes it does work out like that, which is wonderful. And sometimes it's a competition.
Oh, okay.
And so
often, that makes sense.
Usually the way it works is artists are invited to submit a proposal. And there might be 3 or 4 artists on a short list, and we pitch our designs and do our research. And
you get chosen. Well, Lisa has come back. She's put, let's just say all of them, just wonderful and inspiring.
Thank you, Lisa.
She's great. She's really very, very supportive of artists in general. It is why we do this show. It's why one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is because of showcasing people exactly like you, which is absolutely brilliant. I've got let's just talk a little bit about the fact that you have your cherry picker's license. So why would that be exactly?
Yeah, well, that was, just love heights. Just love getting up to 15 meters and having a look around. It's not, it's not a viewpoint you get often, is it?
No, but it's also something that from this there are some pictures of this which I've got. I've got in a slideshow if I can find it. But it basically this is you doing a completely different thing, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, but you needed a cherry picker to get up to finish that off.
Yeah, that's right. So with this piece, yeah, it is very different, and I was so excited to work with colour on this project. So I'll just say a little bit about the inspiration.
Mm.
This is a piece in Purley, which is in Croydon, and just along the road, there's an old telephone exchange. Which was one of the first exchanges to be built, and kind of looking around at what had happened in this area. And I came across a lovely photograph, which we might be able to show, of a lady plugging in calls in her
Yes,
little
I
booth.
have got that. I have got that. It's weird this because I know we looked at that earlier because I asked you that question, and I do all that, and we have all this big conversation, and then when I go to find it again, it's moved. But here it is.
There it is. Yeah, there
So
she is.
this gave you the inspiration for the pattern, I guess.
Yeah, and that may not be immediately obvious, but I'll describe how. So those cables connecting the calls, I just thought this was such a lovely kind of motif to do with community and connection and conversation, which was just kind of perfect for a residential block. And so I looked at many of these images of they called them hello girls
Oh, yeah,
in the early days.
yeah.
It's also really lovely because it was one of the first opportunities for women to go into the workplace.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a lovely part of the history. I took the negative spaces between those cables and created this piece on the wall. And those kind of peaks are a reference to the lovely arts and crafts mansions, which are all down the rest of the street.
So, do you find yourself consciously walking around looking at patterns, or is this just something that you just recognize anyway? And like, for instance, you've looked at that, but you've seen the pattern between the cables and
Yes. So I have a real interest in geometry.
yeah.
And as you can see, there's a lot of geometry in my work. And I'm kind of, in one way or another, I do kind of always come back to that. And I've also, as I said, I love antiques and antique jewelry. I also love period architecture. And so I think, I am always looking at the kind of bare bones of things and the kind of blueprints at the basis of more decorative elements of a building or a piece of jewelry, or a landscape. It's kind of stripping things down to the fundamental elements.
Yeah. I mean, we can see that as well on the things that you got on the wall behind you as well.
Yes.
There's pieces I recognise from obviously from what I've seen of your work, and in fact that top blue one directly behind you is obviously that big piece that we've. Yeah, exactly. Then no, that's the church, isn't it? The other one.
Yeah, so these are some screen prints I did actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that again. That just leads on to. Do you do anything? Do you do other work? Are you just focusing solely on installations, or do you do other work in terms of painting, small sculptures? Do you do all other stuff as well?
I do a lot of 2D pieces. It doesn't always get seen though, or rather, it hasn't.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. So you're telling me, look, you do these amazing big installs. Look, I'm just going to bring up this comes back to the sort of pattern thing that we were talking about earlier. But look, this is a pattern that this is a church, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're telling me that some of the work that you then do, which is like the stuff that you've got on the wall behind you, for example, doesn't get seen by anybody. And my first question's got to be, why on earth not? So before you answer, there's an artist. We call him the Wizard of Art. He always watches. His name is Paolo. He's a fabulous man. He's put a comment on, which is, I think it's fantastic to be inspired by vintage photographs to create such unique and impressive pieces. Now, he's world renowned, Paolo. So coming from him, that's a huge compliment. But I'm sure, like him, like me, we would also like to see all your other stuff out there as well.
Yeah, so it's funny because somebody, a friend of mine, was actually a dad at my daughter's school. He said, was looking at my website and he said, so is all your work fucking huge then?
So he said, what? Sorry? You went, the sound went.
He said, so is all your work fucking huge then?
Oh, no.
And I was quite embarrassed actually, because I think maybe he wanted to buy something.
Oh.
And, that is something that I am really keen to showcase and develop this year.
Yeah. It is, I think, and also
smaller works is what I mean.
It's smaller works. You've got more chance of spreading your work to a lot more people. I mean, obviously, somebody's not going to be having a 5 metre by 15 metre sculpture stuck on the side of the house. Well, that's not true. There are people that will have that, but not the general public. Whereas the general public might well be able to afford and like to have something of yours. There's a lot of. It's interesting. There's been quite a few artists that I've interviewed who are where patterns play a really big part of their work, and it's also quite evident when you do go to exhibitions. You see patterns really are quite a thing, and I find it quite interesting that it's probably a lot of your work is very geometric, but would you say that transfers over into smaller things that you do art-wise? Is it still patterns and geometry, or is it something different? Do you really go into the abstract side more?
Well, it becomes much more about experimenting with materials.
Right.
I'm not sure if I can show you these because I think they might fall apart.
Don't tell me it's chili powder.
such is the nature of a lot of the have a good sneeze now. Yeah, such is the nature of a lot of my.
Yeah, don't hold them up, or they're going to fall apart. No.
I think it'll be alright actually. So this is something I'm working on at the moment.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
So I'm looking at using patina.
yeah,
This is a sheet of bronze
yeah,
with patina, and then I'm using powder paint over the top of it to create these kind of layers. But
yeah,
yeah, in answer to your question, it's about exploring materials, and yeah, I do find that those kind of geometric themes are a big part of these works. Yeah. I'll put that down before it gets.
Do you think, or have you, I should say, have you experimented at all with enamels? I mean, just looking at what you just showed me there, for example, that does lead itself to powdered enamel and firing it, and getting the patterns and stuff. So I'm just interested to know if you've actually gone down that
You
route
know
at
what? I
all.
haven't actually. That's not
Hmm.
something that I've explored yet.
Hmm.
But it is such a lovely kind of glossy finish, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And it's really, again, it's something that's it's unusual. And I do think that you kind of, if you're going to start doing smaller things, you still want them to be you. You don't. That doesn't. People want to look at that and know it's you, and not think it's another artist completely. So, sort of bringing the bigger stuff down into smaller artworks would be very cool, I think.
yeah, it would, and that's really that's kind of one of my resolutions
Hmm.
this year. I think it's inevitable that it will look like my work
Yeah. Yeah.
at this stage. I think,
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah. It's kind of almost like working backwards, almost, isn't it?
Yeah. 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 So, um, we know how you got to where you are. We know what you've been up to. What is next? What?
Um, yeah. So I'm working on something really. I'm working on a really lovely commission at the moment, actually.
Hmm.
Um, it's for my client who's really involved in Formula One.
Oh.
And he,
Okay, now we've taken a different route now, because
yeah,
now you know what's going to happen now, don't you? Suddenly we're going to be new best friends. I'm going to be saying, "Can you get some tickets?"
well, have you ever been to Spa-Francorchamps?
No, I've been to Singapore and I've been to Silverstone, but Spa is one of the easiest ones to get to. The biggest problem with Spa is it absolutely pours with rain.
Yeah,
So yeah, but it's we've been talking about going to Spa.
yeah,
Funny enough, because it is easy to get to, and it's one of the cheapest as well.
yeah, and it's so iconic.
Yeah, it is.
Well, this commission I'm working on is a sculptural interpretation of the outline of the track.
The track, brilliant.
Yeah, so I can't show you anything.
No, obviously not. You
Ooh.
can't. No. But
I think,
when it's finished,
yeah,
if you can then send me something, then if it's finished and I'm still doing this, well, hopefully I will
yeah,
be.
absolutely.
Then I'll just bring it up, and just so people can remember this chat.
Yeah,
And
please do.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's all I've used. Again, coming back to my usual approach, which is very physical. I'm using ribbons,
Hmm.
and I've kind of manipulated them to form this kind of twisting, folding, kind of fluid, light piece. We're using a new, really exciting new, new for me, material using carbon fibre, and we're using
Makes sense.
steel. So we're kind of looking at the different eras and the materials that we used in different eras of motorsport.
Yeah, I don't know. It is still on because I think it's on till the middle of March. But there is a Formula One exhibition on at the
There
Excel.
There is. I haven't been yet, but I really
No,
want to.
I have been.
You've been? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating because it goes right back to the start. And some of the original cars were just basically wooden frames with metal screwed on the outside. I mean, they were bonkers. But it's really, it's proper. It is proper interesting, and probably be interesting for you if you're doing that. Is the person you're doing this for got some link with Spa? Then is that the idea of it?
Yeah.
That must be really. Again, when you're given a brief like that, you can see how you can become quite immersed in it, can't you? It's
absolutely. I've I did a track day actually in in Norfolk to get a bit of first-hand experience.
Yeah. I did one at Silverstone. I won't say how many years ago, but it was quite a few years ago for my 50th, and it's bizarre. I don't know if you were in a Formula Ford or anything like that, but it didn't occur to me at all when the guy in front goes off the track, all the mud off his wheels hit you in the face. It didn't occur to me one little bit. I got completely covered in it. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, that's not fair, is it?
No. There's no windscreen.
Well, what I wasn't anticipating. So this track in Norfolk isn't a proper track. It's just an old airfield.
Yeah.
And so people are going around and knocking the bollards over. And so I'm not the most. I have some orientation problems at the best of times. Part of the time, I wasn't quite sure where I was supposed to be going because all the bollards were all over the shop. So yeah, it would have been nice to be on an actual track. Maybe next time.
So how do you then how do you go about trying to really get into what you're doing for that particular job? Let's say, where I'm assuming you've been over to visit the track, have you or not? No, Spa.
I haven't been yet, but I'm going really soon.
So that'd be obviously that's part of it, but also being able to immerse yourself into that world, because it's not just about creating the track, it's about creating the history that's gone into that track. So your research for all these pieces that you create must be huge.
It really is. Well, I did a friend of mine has the Gran Torino kind of I don't know what you'd call it, where you sit in you have a kind of, it's as if you're driving the car. It's like a simulation, basically, a simulation of the track.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine has a whole setup in their house, and so that was really helpful actually, kind of driving the track and kind of feeling how I wanted to kind of I wanted to express, the kind of the elegance and the lightness of what it must be like to drive that well, with
Yeah.
expertise. And
Yeah. And
yeah, that's where I got this idea of the ribbon. Hopefully, we're gonna achieve this feeling of just absolute, lightness. I can't think of a better word. Just as if the sculpture has just kind of fallen out onto or been kind of thrown onto the wall.
yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's very robust, which reflects the strength, I guess.
Well, yeah, especially with the carbon fibre as well.
Yeah.
And just before anybody comments underneath, call yourself a Formula One fan, and you don't know where Senna died. It was Imola. It wasn't San Remo, it was Imola. And so, God dear. My mind went a complete and utter blank, and I was starting to think, "Oh no, come on, Gary, what are you doing?" But yes, it was Imola. Well, look, we got 3 minutes left, so I need to bring up your website so people can see that, and which I'm going to do right now, and share my screen so people can see it. Give me 1 second. It's a great website, and I think it's definitely worth people going along to have a look. So you've got a bit of news. So it's St John's College in Cambridge. Should be February, but obviously it's now moved a bit, as you said, possibly April. And to be honest, it's probably better. The weather's going to be much nicer, so definitely going to be better. That you've got all your different works here that you can see, which are where you've done quite a few of these. We haven't actually managed to speak about these. This, for instance, this was in the video, so people will be able to see that in the video. But actually, if I bring you up, then it is the picture on the wall behind you at the back there, isn't it, as well? The screen print. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So pretty superb. And also we've talked about these ones. We haven't spoken about these at all. These railings in Richmond Station, which I mean, architecturally, they are really, really cool. And are they bronze as well? Or are they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you do love a bit of bronze, don't you? Yeah, and again, I think what I'm really taken with is just the amount of work that goes into creating the patterns. Again, what I will do is I'll show the video again. I don't often do this, but I will do it again because quite a lot of this was in there, and now we've spoken about it, people will be able to see it. So I will do that as we finish. These gates and balconies as well that link all to it. Whereabouts was that one?
That's in Regent Street in Chelsea.
Chelsea, yeah.
So that's this kind of set of balconies which kind of cascade down the front of the building, and then these kind of sliding gates. This is all based on a kind of wallpaper design.
So one question I have got is these guys that you get to do all your work for you, when they see you coming, do they run and hide?
Oh no, she's back. Oh, she's got holes in everything.
I'm just thinking and looking at the amount of work that's gone into those railings.
Let's just distract her with a nice cup of tea.
The amount of work is just. But as a fabricator, they must find it amazing as well, because it's just so unusual to do that sort of stuff.
Well, so I work with a couple of different fabricators. One of them mainly makes sculpture.
Yeah.
And the other one kind of does some kind of industrial architectural stuff and some art as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to end on that funny note, and what I'm going to say is thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope it's not been too traumatic. You were worried about what I was going to ask about, but what I will say is, again, thanks for coming on. Look, if you happen to be around on the 17th of July and you're in London, then please come along to the private view of Flux. I'm sure people watching, quite a lot of the people that are in Flux watch these, so they'll be up for having a chat and meeting you, which will be pretty cool. And
I'd love to come. Thank you very much.
You never know, you might get a bit of inspiration from
somebody.
Will. So that would be cool. But really, I'm going to finish by showing you video again and then finish off. But don't rush away. I'm just going to sit in the green room while I just wrap this up, and I'll catch you in a minute. But thanks very much, Rona Smith, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary. It was
absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm sure the people that were watching enjoyed that, and there's a lot of people that watch these after the event. And I don't blame you, quite frankly, because 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, you're probably eating your dinner. I know that I would be, but we do get a lot of people to watch these afterwards. And as I said, I'm going to actually play out with Rona's video again, and that's purely because we've spoken an awful lot about all of these pieces of work, and you can see them in this video. So that leaves me to say thanks very much, and I will see you next week with Sam. As I mentioned earlier, Sam is a very interesting man as well, and he's well known to the Flux family, so it'd be great to catch you all next week. Thank you.